Hey friends, and welcome to Lucy Smiles Living Room Podcast. I am your host, Lucy Smiles, also known as Diane Lozo. I go by both. And I am so excited as we have tapped into season 3 of the Lucy Smiles Living Room Podcast, where I have continued over the last year to interview, have conversation, and connect heart to heart with those in this beautiful world that have been igniting the magic that ignites their inner essence, and the ability to really bring about conversations that I believe that through any nugget, any little piece of information can really hit your own heart. And hopefully, in my desire is to allow you to look within yourself, allow the story of someone else to really ignite something within yourself that allows you to say, maybe I have a calling in my heart that I'm not following, or maybe I have followed a calling and maybe I forgot. And so in this beautiful place of remembering, I am so excited to chat with Julie Fredette today. Hi, Julie.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. I'm so excited. I just was watching one of your YouTube episodes earlier before we jumped on today. And so Julie, I love the work that you do. And I'm really grateful for being connected to you. And I'm really excited to learn more about your story and anything that inspires you to share today. Before we do get started with our conversation with Julie, a little bit about Julie Fredette. Driven by a deep desire to connect with something bigger, Julie is on a transformational, spiritual, and journey rooted in self-discovery, mindfulness, and inner peace. With an open heart and a curious mind, she explores the diverse spiritual traditions, practices, philosophies, and seeks wisdom and healing with a deeper understanding of her purpose. I love that.
Thank you.
Whether through meditation, through nature, through sacred texts, which I know you are going to share some pretty juicy things around sacred texts, or even just meaningful conversations, hopefully like this today, Julie is committed to living authentically and to align her life with compassion, presence, and truth. And I'll also make sure, Julie, that we have everything in the show notes around your website, Higher Truth Now, as well as to be able to follow you on your beautiful YouTube channel at Higher Truth Now. So welcome to the living room.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited to speak with you today.
Me too. And it's interesting, I was sharing before the interview is that I was bringing in the serendipity this morning. And so already through our behind the scenes conversations, as we were technically getting ready for this to be a show, a couple of beautiful things have already happened for us. So Julie, I would love to, just where did this all begin for you? I know many times in our life, we go through life maybe on autopilot. Sometimes it happens in our teens, even when we're younger. For me, was more, in my 20s, moving into my Saturn return when I turned 30. And so I would love to find out from you, where did this ignition start?
Okay, thank you. So I do remember being 13 years old and asking, what is the purpose of all this and what is it for? So having that questioning early. However, it really was the year of 29 that it was critical, let's say, because I had 3 significant deaths within 3 weeks in my 29th year. So that led me to looking at sort of every culture's response to death and grief and wondering even more profoundly, what is this for? What is the purpose? Why are we here? And, trying to understand exactly, why each individual is here and how we matter in the greater scheme of things. So it was definitely at 29 that the catapult was launched.
Wow. And so when I hear you say that, I'm curious, 3 deaths in such a short amount of time. Can you tell me and the audience, I'm sure, or maybe you could explain, did you launch right into, I'm going to learn why this is, or was it something that through grieving and through that process or processes, I would say, when did that message come to you to take a moment to be in such a conscious awareness around that through something so heavy?
Well, it had actually started earlier. So previous to that, I was sort of interested in what we would call personal growth. I was reading text from Hay House authors like Louise Hay or Wayne Dyer or Robert Holden. attending sort of conferences of I Can Do It, or how to empower yourself, or living your best life. That's sort of, let's call it philosophy to life. I was already involved in that. But after the 3 deaths, it sort of stopped me in my tracks, meaning I have been sort of doing things and living life and, going about my, every day. But I really was sent into a time of exploration and wondering and questioning of why are we here, as in our individual purpose. Why do we matter? What is our contribution to this whole, to society, to the world we live in, our community? So it was definitely the grief that sent me into that let's say inquiry. And so if we use Joseph Campbell's title, A Hero's Journey, so a hero's journey has you starting out, you have a calling, and then, sometimes you're not necessarily wanting to be called, but I think that the grief for me was the call to why do I matter and what am I here to do? So it definitely was that time that deepened my investigation. Yes.
I love that. And it's interesting. I was just listening to Abraham Hicks this morning as I was prepping the podcast living room, and just getting a little glimpse of those things. And I think it's really a beautiful thing for people to understand through this work, that it's not all roses and butterflies, and that a lot of times within that hero's journey, and I recommend anyone who wants to follow even the documentary of Joseph Campbell, so beautiful. I think it's called Finding Joe.
I'm not sure the name, but it's on PBS. Quite good.
Yeah. And so it's beautiful whenever you think about, that not every, like, we have contrast in life. And so the calling is also, there's a contrast to allow us to have those lessons that don't just come from the up times, right? And being able to honor those sacred spaces as also just as equally as sacred as the beautiful times where the serendipity is gorgeous and is colorful. It has both. And so I feel that through the wisdom that you found through those times of, as a human losing loved ones, that you were able to still tap within. Going back to as well to Julie, in terms of the personal development journey, right? We have a very similar path, different, but yet similar. Is how did that look for you in terms of like friendship circles or connections? Did you find yourself feeling alone? Were you kind of going off the beaten path, or did you first find proximity that allowed you to take the personal development to the next step? So what was that journey for you?
I would say that it was more of a solo journey, and I had at the time felt that I was maybe the odd person out, or unusual in my quest to have this information, because the friends that I had weren't necessarily interested in the same types of matters, like the metaphysical and the spiritual teachings were not necessarily what my friends and colleagues were doing, but it was of interest to me. So I sort of was doing that without much sharing, I would say. I did find some people. Obviously now I have some people who are with me in their spiritual development, but I would say for a long time I felt like I was a solo person on this journey. And I do think that ultimately everyone is going to come to a point in their life where there is some self-reflection. It just depends on how deeply you want to take that journey.
I love that. In saying that as well too, for the audience, I always want to relate to the audience, or how can we create value or inspiration or insight to support them? Maybe they feel stuck, right? If I think about what could come up for people is, I don't have time. I wish that I could do that, but my calendar, my schedule, my priorities, my responsibilities, or even my resources are not aligned with the ability to do that. So can you share how or what kept you going, feeling that feeling of alone, or, kind of like solo? What were some of the things or reminders for you, or even skill set that you would acquire to allow you to not give up and get back in? Because let's be honest, patterns are like our habits and our behaviors. It's so much easier to go back to the known, even if it's familiar, it could be detrimental. And we've all been there, right? All still here until we're there. We're still here on this earth. So is there anything that you could share with the audience around what allowed you to keep on going, or groundedness that you would build a foundation around of to keep on your path?
Thank you. That's a really good question. For myself, I actually was very into yoga. So I wanted to have the body-mind connection, but I appreciate your question around not having the time. And so along the way, I did hear someone suggest that if you can connect sort of with your breath, even for 3 breaths. So as you would inhale, you would count to 4. And then as you hold your breath, count to 7, and exhale, count to 8. If you do that 3 times, even that will help to calm your nervous system and have you be present in the moment. So everyone has lots of obligations and responsibilities and things to do, but I do think that everyone has time for 3 conscious breaths to help center them back into their body. So that's a little, let's say, practical takeaway that is applicable to everyone. And if you do have more time than that, then start with 1 minute.
I love that.
Of breathing. And if you can add more time, great. Or sometimes it's within movement. So maybe it's a walk in
I
the
was going to
park,
say,
or walk in
yeah.
nature, or looking at a garden, or tending a flower. So the traditional, have to sit on a cushion, close my eyes and chant, it is applicable, but you
Right.
can
Not
do other
necessary.
things. Yeah, you can do other things to sort of connect with yourself and just be mindful of the present moment.
It's interesting too, because as you're saying that, I was thinking of times we could do it, doing the dishes, taking the dogs for a walk. And then I also thought, imagine if only, as a starting point for those that are fully engaged during the day, if you started your day in bed with that, and then you ended your day in bed with that before you even, because one of the things I know that they say too, that I've started to create a habit around, is I have a glass of water by my bed. So I always make sure that I drink all of the water before my feet hit the ground in the morning. And I'm already, because I'm not the best at hydrating during the day, but there's nothing stopping me from drinking that glass of water before I take the dogs for a walk. And it changes my life. So imagine that, just with that breath exercise, to start and end the day. And then you'll start to find yourself being able to bring it another couple of times during the day. So I think that's amazing, because we want it to be functional, right? And so not all of us maybe can go to a yoga class, but we can perhaps do a stretch, keep the yoga mat in our bedroom. In the morning, do a stretch and a breathing exercise before we head out for the day. And then we also, I feel like there's something to be said for self-care. Our self-esteem or our self-image can increase when we give to ourselves in those ways, right? Even those little bits and pieces help us to move along in that journey. So I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that we had spoken briefly before, and this is why I asked you to be on the podcast. I thought your stories are beautiful. Your essence is very pure and genuine. Your message on, that you share is really beautiful. I would love for you to share, a story. I know we were talking about Egypt earlier. I know you have some significant stories of that. So I would love to listen and hear what you have to say around those stories that help to also ignite certain things within you, and information that came to you to remember who we are on this planet.
Okay, thank you. So I have had, let's say, a different significant event before the trip to Egypt. My partner of 15 years passed. Now it's about 18 months. And so in having that experience, because I had the significant deaths at 29, so now it fast forward a number of years, but my partner passed, and I had asked for a sign that he communicate with me after death, and I received it, which was delightful to me. And so that was almost, the confirmation that maybe I didn't actually need it, but I really appreciated. So that was very affirming to me, that yes, the spirit continues to live on. They can communicate with their loved ones from wherever they are afterwards. But because I had already been what I call cracked open from that, going to Egypt this past March, so it's sort of a year after his passing, I was much more open to receive, let's say, and being on the lands in Egypt, I felt strong original frequency of the energies from 5,000 years ago, but are very strong and present still to this day. And I was able to visit various temples and holy sites and feel, so energetically feel the Kundalini energy in me moving up. So that's touching the different chakras, energy centers of the body at the various temples. And I'll say that I had never experienced that previously from just physically being in a place. So that was very new and odd and exciting and a bit overwhelming, because I thought, what is going on here? And so throughout the 2 weeks, because it was every day different temples, it sort of just kept getting stronger and stronger. And the second last day of the trip was a visit to Mount Sinai, where we had the opportunity to be on camelback at 2 a.m. to take us 2/3 of the way up Mount Sinai. You're only seeing the stars. It is complete darkness. And so it was a marvel to me, because I had never experienced anything of that kind, and there was no light disruption, only the stars, and you could see the Milky Way very clearly. And I really felt like I was a part of this, the bigger universe. And then to watch the sunrise at the top of Mount Sinai was absolutely beautiful. And I felt a strong presence of love, presence of the divine on Mount Sinai. Then the next day was a visit to the Great Pyramid, and we had access to the royal chamber, where there's a very strong energy as well. So it was almost like a culmination of energy building. And so then I really felt, as a result of my trip and then ending in the pyramid, in the royal chamber, and we were in the presence of something I'd never experienced before, I really feel like I came back changed. So my little analogy is, I went to Egypt as a Nokia flip phone, but I returned as an iPhone 16 Max, because the energy was completely different and I got a serious upgrade. So very exciting and transformative for me. Yeah, but it didn't start there. It was sort of many years in the making, let's call it.
Right. Would you be able to open to sharing what the message was, like that message that you were looking for that was given to you by your...
Oh, yes.
I'm just
Okay,
curious.
so
Yeah.
absolutely. So I'll give a little bit of background information. I am a student of Course in Miracles, and now teacher of Course in Miracles. And so I had asked for a sign, and I said, please make sure that it's, recognizable, that it's for me from you. And so it was about 3 hours after his passing, and the telephone, because I do have voice recordings of the lessons of A Course in Miracles, and the telephone by itself started reading out lesson 75. The Light Has Come is the name of that lesson. And so it actually read the full 2 pages from the phone. And I was not in that app. I was not anywhere near the phone. It just started sort of speaking on its own. And I knew that was for me. I was delighted. I was excited. I was jumping up and down and crying and grateful. And I also couldn't help myself but to say, I told you so.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, it was very strong, very strong. And the lesson itself has words such as, the darkness and death exists no more, the light has come. It's very, very powerful. So
My goodness.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
It was amazing.
And those are things that you can't make up, right? And this is,
yes. And I do have someone who experienced it with me. So I had another human person in the room with me that experienced it with me. So I find that helpful if I have any skeptics. So
yeah. It's so beautiful. My goodness. And so your trip to Egypt was based on the message, and so is that what you were being given as a way to say, this is the next thing I need to do to get closer to source?
How I received the message of going to Egypt wasn't actually through my partner's passing. I had wanted to go for quite some time. I had a calling to go for about 20 years because one of the people who had passed when I was 29 was
Yeah.
Egyptian. And I loved her
Um,
dearly. And I thought, oh, I should really go and visit. And then in
mm,
conversation with somebody, I said, oh, I'm interested in going to Egypt. And she said, oh, well, I'm actually looking at booking a trip. I said, great. If you go, let me
oh,
know and I'll go with you. And so, of course, it all worked out
yeah.
perfectly. So, yes, that's how that trip came about.
It's beautiful. So in your trip to
Mm-hmm.
Egypt, what were some of the, again, because maybe people will say, well, what do you mean by upgrades? I completely understand it. I've been through many
Okay.
of the spiritual upgrades, and I always say that you can't measure magic, you have to believe in it. Like it's a belief,
Yes.
right? And it's a feeling, it's palpable. It's not just, I it is palpable. So what were some of the, like, if you can give examples of ways that you can identify through your level of awareness of self, of like previous self to upgraded self, that you had noticed for yourself around you as a being
Okay.
after coming back?
So it's going to be sort of the most significant difference, and that is the knowing at a cellular level with my being, the knowing that I am a part of love. I am a
Mm,
part of God. I am a part of the universe. So previously, I may have had, let's call it awareness, or, you know, I'm quite sure that I am, but now it's a embodied knowing
mhm,
that I'm a part of this larger oneness,
mhm.
and it's really unshakable.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that before, but now I do. And what a difference! Because I'm not going to say that now I have no problems and I, only live in love at 100%
Yeah.
frequency. It's not that. I still have, let's call it daily challenges or abrasions
Mhm,
with colleagues. It's just that I have that knowing or knowledge that being a part of love, being a part of God, all of this will be resolved easily. I just have to connect to source.
mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that too, because in chatting with you and knowing, I would say your mission or your level of desire and dedication to serve in authenticity, right? And so I love that whenever I was reading your bio and just talking about like aligning with your highest self and aligning with authenticity, one of the things that
Mm-hmm.
I've learned over the last, year maybe, is that authenticity is actually a higher frequency even than love. Not that love isn't the high, but it's just the authenticity that comes from us being ourselves. And I really do believe too, as I hear you saying this, even just, from last March, myself too, is the last year or so, through even again, like you and I are similar, like a couple of decades of just exploring like a student, like, tell me more
Mm-hmm.
about life, tell me more about my
Mm-hmm.
beingness, always being curious like a child. I think that's, always looking for the magic and the serendipity of why we're here. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the last year has been more of a significant knowingness as well, like embodiment of it. And
Yes.
again, still got
Yes.
challenges, still here in the 3D, like we're not, again, unless we're, you know, away from here, we're going to have those challenges, but it is the ability to operate from a different space, I would almost say,
Yes.
regardless of the challenges and the hurt or the grieving or the things that we feel, the emotions that happen with us. And so I feel like that's where this world is coming to, is that authenticity for ourselves and
Yes.
calling people higher to be in their most authentic self unapologetically. And it could be scary because, again, and as you know, like we live in the social media world of filters, of illusion, of urgency, of almost comparison. We're so bombarded. Whereas, like, say, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, when you and I were like just starting out in the Hay House world, that we didn't have Facebook, right?
Yes.
I think I had a flip phone. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
didn't have a smartphone, but I felt like I was at my
Yes.
most smartest, I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of contrast there. So now that we're being called to be in our most authentic space, we're also being mirrored with maybe like the lack of authenticity. Like no judgment, but just
Yes.
level of awareness. So can you share maybe when you say being your own authentic self and aligning with that, what does that look like for you? Maybe even on a practical daily basis. Like what do you do that allows you to stay centered, grounded, and at peace with authenticity through this world that we live in, which is real?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yes, to a point it is. Yes. So
I was about to
I
go and say it's not, but then I'm like,
yeah,
let's just leave it.
yeah, no, I understand.
Part two later,
Um
right?
yes. So my phrase that I use often is truth has a frequency. So I sort of use that as my let's say go-to or grounding piece. So then I take that with me into different experiences. For example, I'm having a situation with a colleague and they're saying, X, Y, and Z. I tune into that. Is that actually true? Is this what the problem is? Or is it because of, a feeling that they're having or, worried about the outcome of the project or whatever else? And so then I'm able to really tap into what's actually going on here instead of what's being presented on the surface. So I often refer to that truth has a frequency, and I tune into that frequency. And so how I stay in my own alignment, I definitely am in the garden a lot. I'm sort of obsessed with my garden. So I like to be there in the morning and put my hands in the dirt, and that will connect me to something greater than myself, because the fact that this little thing grew from a seed and I had no influence other than to offer love and maybe some water and sunshine, but I'm not involved in this, right? So it's a daily
Yeah.
reminder of something bigger is
At play.
operating here. Yes.
Yeah.
And I just have to tune into it.
Right.
So it's always available. It's just that we are often, unplugged. So
Yeah.
you said you were listening to Esther Hicks. So she would say that, you have to plug in the lamp for the lamp to illuminate and turn on. So you have to plug into source, whatever that means to you, in order
Yeah.
to receive the connection. So I
Yeah.
do that. I do a daily practice. So in the morning, I do reading of A Course in Miracles, and I have a bit of a sort of gratitude practice in the morning, and then I have a gratitude practice in the evening. So those help me to connect. But I actually sometimes do little exercises where I either set a timer for every half hour or every hour, just to do a little tap in reminder of, where are you right now, and tap into what is real. So I
I
set
love
little
that.
alarms on my phone. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice because you could make it customized to your day, right? So perhaps
Correct.
for us who are going through something more significant in a moment, like we always have seasons in our life, seasons, right? Where sometimes things are just easy in flowing. Maybe we say, okay, in this time of my life, I need a couple more reminders. And so our
Mm-hmm.
phones are amazing because they could do that. Set your alarm, set your breathing alarm, right? And to be able to breathe during the day. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
those moments that can significantly shift your energy, because again, everything is energy, right? And so even for
Correct.
myself, when I use my rebounder, left my rebounder in the backyard, it's really hot in Mexico, but I'll do it super early in the morning, like 5:36 in the morning. But even just one spiritual song on my rebounder in the morning, I feel like singing after,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's the movement. So how can we just move the energy and shake the energy in our body? Some people it's a heavy workout if they're doing HIIT training, and some people it's just breathing with your puppies. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I believe too, and that's another thing of comparing. A lot of times we can compare ourselves to how someone else is moving their energy. It's completely different. Right? So
Absolutely.
I was chatting with a girlfriend of mine, Maria from South Africa this morning, and she's amazing. And she was telling me how that she just came back from an 8-kilometer run. I'm like, Maria,
Okay.
you're inspiring. I'm like, that's your way of moving. But I thought, oh my gosh. But if I thought, well, I'm not Maria, but instead I thought, and I said to Maria, I said, wow, you are such an inspiration. I'm going to see where in my day can I up level my ability to move. I don't want to run
Mm-hmm.
for 8 kilometers. That's
Mm-hmm.
just not my thing. But I was not able, I don't look at her and say, well, if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing
Right.
all that I need to do. But it's being able to be inspired by people. And I think that's another
Yes.
thing too. And we always say proximity is power. And your mentors don't have to be people that you pay for. You don't have to be a
Yes.
part of a mastermind in person, but who can we follow and or get wisdom from And we have so many opportunities in this world with YouTube and Spotify and Instagram, if you're careful, be mindful.
Yes,
With
absolutely.
Right? But being able to use those tools and those mentors and influences that allow us to up level where we are at in our life for our highest good, not
Yes.
just, I think that's really beautiful. So in your work, Julie, I would love for you to share through this journey that you have been on of self-discovery, inner work. How have you been able to show up for others, and who do you work with, and what does that look like for you as a teacher of the Course in Miracles and always still obviously a student? So both.
Yes, always a
What it,
student. Yes.
yeah. So what does that look like for you in everyday life?
Okay, so my everyday life, I do Reiki offerings also and energetic work, and I specialize really in grief and support with grief, partly because of my, let's say, many experiences. And I also think in our current culture, it's not really talked about. It's not open to conversation. And also, if you are experiencing a grief, whether it's a loved one who's unwell or someone who has passed, it's uncomfortable for people. So those who are actually grieving don't have the opportunity to express themselves fully, or it's only a certain time period. Okay, it's been 3 months, they should be over it and let's move on. Whereas the grief can be literally forever, for the rest of your life. So I do have that as, let's say, my specialty. And I receive those who are, looking for support. So it's in coaching mainly that I do. But I also, after my trip to Egypt, I was called to start sharing the love. And so that's why I started my little YouTube channel, because I just wanted to share the love
Yeah.
of, what I experienced, and reminding people that we're all really connected. It's a matter of reminding ourselves to stay connected. So that's sort of how I show up for people in those offerings. But I, can see, like, people often will approach me in an informal way or casual way, or I will notice if they're not well and check in with them to see how they're doing. So I'm not really operating, let's say, on a grand scale just yet, but I am available to assist those who want to have this type of conversation.
I love that. And I really do believe that the
Mm-hmm.
empathy that comes through for people who want to serve, right, through personal story and also
Mm-hmm.
that transformation that you're going through. I always say too, it's, we've been indoctrinated to
Mm-hmm.
no judgment, but level of awareness, everyone, caveat, is that, like, oh, so what's your title or what's your certification? What's your designation? Are you a doctor? Are you a,
Mm-hmm.
certified therapist, certified all the things? And it was funny because few months back, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine who's so significantly talented and skilled. And she had said, but I'm not certified. I'm like, you're source certified, highest
Mm-hmm.
certification that anyone could ever hope for. Right. But you don't get it from a paper. You get it from source.
Correct.
And so when I chatted with you as well too, and I follow your YouTube messages around the Course of Miracles and your ability to really just bring simplicity to it, which I think is amazing.
Thank you.
I want to go back to that. So I have been familiar with A Course in Miracles book. I have the book. Back in the day in 2008, I mentioned to you on our quick chat, is I would every Tuesday we had this amazing couple from Vegas. They were these Harley guy, like a Harley couple, like Harley Davidson, like biker gang, and beautiful. And I met them through meetup.com. And so on Tuesdays, they would open up their beautiful home to A Course in Miracles. But we would only do one paragraph, like one little, because it's so deep. And so I remember
Yes.
that from 2008. And I loved the community component of it. But I felt so drawn to it, still have the book, still have the workbook. And so I would love for you to share with people. Some people don't even know what we're talking about. So what is A
Okay.
Course in Miracles? What is if you could share and enlighten us on what that is, and also practical tips for those that may say, oh, I'm feeling called to learn about this, but what do I do next? Including myself, is,
Okay.
I would love for you to just bring all that into this conversation for those, including me.
Pardon me. Yes. Okay. So A Course in Miracles is a spiritual text that was actually received by a scribe. So the person's, pardon me, was actually a university professor, and was having a conflict with a colleague of hers. So her name is Helen Schuckman. So she was having a conflict with a colleague, and in their conversation, she said, "There's got to be a better way." And so then soon afterwards, she started hearing a voice, and the voice said, "You will write down everything that I am telling you." And she was very reluctant and resistant to doing that. However, the voice was sort of insistent. And so it is at the consciousness of Christ, and it is messaging from Christ that has created A Course in Miracles. It took 7 years to transcribe everything, and it's been in publication. It's actually the 50th anniversary of the course this year. And so if you're going to read it, it is, as you said, a heavy sort of read, and it is in a sort of Christian language. So that might not appeal to everyone, but it's the message is actually not like something else you will read, in the sense of the basic premise is that nothing that is real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. There is only fear and love. And if you're feeling fear or any derivative of, it's actually a call to love. It's because you've forgotten who you are. And so within the book, there's, let's call it the text. There's a workbook, which is a lesson for every day. And at the back, it's called the workbook for manual for teachers. And so my sharing presently is just trying to make the course accessible to everyone, because it can be a difficult read. But if people are interested, there are different authors who have, A Course Made Easy by Alan Cohen, or there's Pam Grout, who has different interpretations of the course. But if you are reading metaphysical books, once you know the Course in Miracles, you'll see that a lot of authors refer to it or point to it or whatever else. And so because I was doing so much reading of that nature, I realized at one point that the course is the source. So I might as well go and see the course directly, see what it's saying. I had it on my bookshelf for probably 20 years before, looking into it deeply, because I found the language very off-putting. So that's been my experience with it. And but there's lots of resources available. There are study groups for A Course in Miracles as well, if people are interested. And I have still my own teachers, Robert Holden, to assist me in guidance with A Course in Miracles as well.
So Robert Holden, I met him at the I Can Do It convention in 2008 in Vegas. Yeah. So you work with him.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And now, do you also have any of your own masterminds or groups that you've created or want to create?
Yes, it's going to all be coming. So basically, from the trip to Egypt, I received the calling of "You're a teacher, start teaching." So I started with the little videos, but I do understand now that you can resist the calling, but you cannot avoid the calling, and I'm delighted to lean into it more. So I will be deepening my practice. I do offer coaching presently, one-on-one. I am going to work on some groups and classes, and that's all upcoming, but it's definitely the early days for that.
I love it. Or not, who knows?
Well, we'll see. I receive the guidance, so I follow the guidance to see what happens. Yeah.
Well, I love how you have stepped into your light through even your YouTube channel, right? And I think it's beautiful. Even this morning, again, you were talking about love and fear and stepping into that. So that was beautiful how I just, you pop up on my YouTube now that I'm subscribed. So I want
to
share with all of those that are in my audience. For me, I love having conversation like this, Julie, because there's so much information out there. All is amazing. Take what works, leave the rest. And so I love being able to offer the insight from conversations around beliefs, faith, what God's source, whatever that looks like for people, because sometimes many of us can maybe be looking for something, but we don't even know what we're looking for. Right. And so someone could be sitting here watching this episode and saying, never even heard of A Course in Miracles. And all of a sudden they get called, and maybe some don't, but then they get called to Egypt. or, maybe they could get called and they're going through grieving, and all of a sudden they have someone who has definitely been through the grieving process with an empathetic heart. And so that is my desire, again, as you know too, is I just have no attachment to outcome when I get called to bring someone into the living room like you at the perfect time, because I know we've been attempting to do this and even attempting this morning. We weren't sure this was going to happen with all of the technical and look at this, not one problem.
Perfect.
So it is perfect. So I just want to say thank you to you for taking the time to share your heart, share your light. I want to make sure for those to follow you on YouTube. You have your website, which is highertruthnow.ca. And where are you located for those that maybe want to do in-person coaching with you?
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Oh, perfect. Amazing.
Yes, thank you.
I love that. And so on your journey, we will wait until you come and let us know when your workshops are opening and when your masterminds and those types of teachings. And also if you're open to as well too, we could also put the work you're doing with Robert Holden in the show notes, just different resources.
I just want to clarify, he's my teacher. So I don't work with him. He's my teacher. Yep. Okay, yes. Perfect.
So just little places that people could follow, different areas of the lineage that is A Course in Miracles for those who want to dive in. You also mentioned too, Julie, that you listen to the audio. So that's something that's also available for those that want to learn through audio?
Well, it is available. So there is let's call it, a computerized version of the audio, which I don't find very appealing. But Robert Holden's wife, Holly Holden, she voice recorded all of the lessons for A Course in Miracles. So I find it a bit more interesting because it's a human rather than the automated version. Yeah. So that's available with Robert and Holly directly, not through me.
Right. And I actually bought Pam Grote's book too when I revisited for the 8th time, A Course in Miracles. So I'm like, it's definitely in my vortex. And so I love every time I have someone on the show, I always get some sort of a healing message for myself too. So it's definitely this beautiful infinity of receiving and giving through this beautiful essence that we've created here today. So Julie, before we go, I always love to ask a question to the person that I'm in conversation with, and I never know what the question is, so I still don't know what the question is. But I would love to ask you, in all of your journey, what would you say is something that maybe surprised you about you in your journey of self-discovery? It could be anything. So something that maybe even a skill or anything that surprised you about you.
Surprised me about me is the truth of who I am, that I actually am a part of the universe, a part of the oneness. And I had always doubted that growing up. I really felt like I was on the outskirts. So knowing that now, it's a surprise and it's a delight and it's very comforting.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm going to take that with me. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing this space with me today, Julie. I'm so grateful.
Very much.
You're such a beautiful essence. And you're so welcome. And I want to say a big thank you to my amazing audience who have been tapping in. I really appreciate you taking time to allow others to show their light that they are igniting, following their own magic that ignites their inner essence. If only even one little thing can help you today through this conversation with Julie, I would be just so grateful. And if you can like and comment and anything that showed up for you that you may be surprised about you or about this conversation, definitely open to comments. And I will definitely put your information in the show notes, but you can find Julie at highertruthnow.ca and also subscribe to her YouTube channel. It is amazing at Higher Truth Now on YouTube. And until next time, I hope that you always follow the magic that ignites your inner essence to change the world. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Julie.